not me.
So what's going on with Steel Battalion?
What is going on?
Yeah, what isn't going on?
I played it.
So, remember Steel Battalion was a game that required a gigantic and complicated controller.
They were going for their super realism in their crazy mech game.
And then they announced that they were making Steel Battalion as a Kinect game, and everyone went like, oh, that couldn't be further away from what Steel Battalion...
I don't know, man.
No, instead they have found a way to make a Kinect game as fucking insane.
There's no more giant and complicated a controller than you.
You are the giant complicated controller.
You've got like 200 buttons, right?
My God.
So what is it? I mean, you played it. You're a man in a VT with a crew.
It's a
with
tank
you.
basically.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's a mech. it's basically
vertical
a
tank.
Yeah,
but it's not
just like in the other game.
It's not like a super sleek. Like
World War II.
I think it takes place in like alternate.
Yeah, the premise is there's some disease that eradicates
that's what it is.
A lot of like the advanced technology of the world, and then they have to fall back on this.
You mean like a computer virus or something?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Some shit makes it so you have
something that was not translated well.
It basically becomes alternate World War II.
Right.
Okay.
Well, because so it's like,
but in the far flung future.
But I mean, that was always the Steel Battalion aesthetic to a certain degree. Was the chunky, realistic military.
There's no like fly by wire stuff going on. No computers. It's like every lever and gear and whatever you touch is directly connected mechanically to some control surface. There's a guy physically loading shells into the chamber.
So it's basically like 4 people in your thing, and then in one of the missions they showed there were like 3 guys hanging out on top of it too.
You have a guy reloading the machine gun, a guy reloading like the rocket launcher, the main cannon,
There's a
and then you have a comm
officer.
officer, and then you have people up top that are, I guess, shooting dudes.
Plus, the inside of the cockpit or whatever is just all like needle gauges and dirty. Everything's greasy and dirty, and
So
it looks great.
You play this game with a controller as well as with the connector.
It
requires both. It requires both,
right? Like what a bold and yet obvious fucking decision.
You'll use the controller for kind of your basic aiming and shooting sort of stuff, but then maybe you're like reaching up and swiping down to pull a periscope down.
Yeah, you got a control in your left hand. You put your hand up and then you pull down, and the game will light up gold if you to tell you that like these are the things you can interact with. But you don't have to wait for that stuff. As long as you know what you're doing, you're putting your arm up, pulling it down to the periscope. You're flinging it back up. You're putting your right hand out, pulling that forward to bring out what you can switch on the headlights of the machine. There's a flick, and you fucking flick it with your finger. It's so dumb. It's so great. And once you get like a real feel for it, like you're just pulling all these switches and pulling out all this stuff, and it feels as big and dumb and crazy as complicated as that giant controller.
Yeah.
But like, and also, even though you're sitting down using a controller, you will stand up like when you need to get out, like to look from the top of the mech. You stand up,
You literally stand up to stand up.
but then you use the controller to look around. So it's not like dumb stuff like you're having to shift your body around to look around. You can look how you would naturally look in a first-person game. You're just initiating that by standing up.
It still has the self-destruct thing from the big controller. You still flip up a thing and hit the button. I guess in this game, it doesn't erase your save, or it doesn't prevent you from getting your save erased, or it just kind of resets your checkpoint. Yeah. But the best part about it is that when you go to fucking hit it, there are other people in the fucking cockpit that see you doing it, like, what the fuck are you doing? And blow up the whole thing. And
there's another kind of interesting aspect of having those other people in there is that they can individually die.
Like and then that'll like
there's a point, a guy like opens up they throw a grenade in, or someone's there with a knife trying to stab your comms lady, and then it switches to like you got a pistol and you have to fucking shoot this guy.
Wow!
But if he kills your comm officer,
sometimes you're putting actually just your hand out and waving the pistol. Like the ways it uses the controller are not always
not like you would use that. Like, okay, it's a first person shooter.
No,
time.
you put your hand out and you're waving your hand around.
But then you shoot around her to get the guy that's trying to fucking kill her.
But the result of that stuff is that if the person dies, then the function they were performing no longer takes place.
Right.
Like, weren't they saying like if your ammo guy dies, you have to load the shells yourself to shoot them?
So it's not like it's like permanent crippling. It's like you then have to take on that responsibility.
And so the way you go in and out of aiming. You have the control in your hand, and you move forward and you move it back, and that goes from being in the cockpit to interact with the cockpit crew, and then moving the mech, and so obsessively, like you have these little indicators that are like flashing red and green based on if you're out of ammunition and it's being reloaded. If those guys die, you have to put your hand forward so that you come back into the cockpit, wave your right or left hand so you can shift over to wherever the cannon are or the machine gun stuff is, and manually load the ammunition every time.
This is fantastic.
Right?
Sometimes crew members freak out and you have to calm them down. It's like in one of the cases they showed, like one of the guys in the cockpit goes, "Hey, I got some water." And you can take that up out of the top to a girl that's on top and hand her the water because she probably needs it more than you do. And interactions like that. And then sometimes people freak out and you got to calm them down the best way you know how.
Slap the shit out of them.
Fist bumps.
I fist bumped. And also, I liked being corrected because I tried to do a fist bump with my left hand. The Japanese designer was like, no, right hand. Do the fist bump. You can do a handshake. You got to do the whole. There's also there's a high five, and then there was this one sequence which I didn't play, but they showed in the demo where you crawl out of the bottom, and then there's a guy that's been shot, and you have to drag him over to the mech, and so the motion you have to do is like putting your arms out and drag, and it's using the depth camera to realize that you're dragging a guy to try and get him over to the mech. Like the commitment to absurdity is
fucking.
Oh yeah,
but it takes itself so seriously.
Yes, and that's why
I would want that. I would want that.
That's why it works so well.
This sounds fantastic. This sounds like I wanted nothing to do with the original Steel Battalion. This sounds amazing.
Yeah,
it's fucking insane.
It sounds.
You're just watching them do it, and you're just like, someone spent money on this. Like, thank you for spending money on this.
I am so stoked that we got Kinect Dev to Japan. And they can do
where they can work their dark magics on it.
Yeah. I love that they said instead of like, well, we need to take our existing ideas and simplify them for Kinect. They're like, no, let's make them even like way more complicated than they even were already. Like, yes,
I hope
that's
all
the way
works.
to do it.
You played it. Did it seem like the
it works.
Stuff
it works well enough. See how it holds up. I mean, couldn't detect it. So the thing is, when we were in that Fable demo, and Peter Molyneux wanted me to play it to see if my hair would break it. It totally broke Steel Battalion for a little while.
Weird.
And then they had to have someone else go in and get it set up, and then I just replaced the guy and it worked fine. But yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll see how it holds up with the long term, but like, it is worth just the 20 minutes was like, I'll take my, like, do you have like a Square thing attached to an iPhone? I will pay you money right now. Just take it. Like, bringing this out, like, this is going to be a party game. Just watching someone do this shit is just entertaining as all hell. It's just.
So you're saying there's a metagame of just watching someone else play this game.
Yeah. Again, it's the commitment. Like, they just go for it.
Yeah.
In every respect, and I respect them for it. And it seems to work enough that, there'll probably be some weirdness with it, just like any other Kinect thing, but in the same, like, it's totally different than, like, Double Fine, like, Happy Action Theater, but it's almost in the same absurd world of just, come on, pull this lever. I'm like, I'm going to pull the lever.
Of course I'm going to pull the lever.
And then I'm going to push the button, and I'm going to flip the light switch over and over again. I just keep pulling it out and flipping it on and off.
That's impressive. It's impressive if that actually works right.
And it's nice because it's actually smartly spaced out so that it's not like there are... If you know where it is spatially, eventually you will just know where to put your hand and do everything. Like, there's a thing in the upper right-hand corner, there's a thing in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a thing at the top, there's a thing to the upper left, thing to the bottom left.
So everything's spaced out. You don't have the issue of, like, I'm trying to flip the light, but instead I accidentally hit the other thing. It happens a
little bit, but it's, like... It's hard to tell if that was me just coming to grips with the limitation, because I was over-exaggerating, and you definitely don't need to be over-exaggerating. That's a tendency when you first play a Kinect game is to
really go big,
around. And it does not seem you need to do that. It is using a lot of the depth camera to just, like, if you just up in the upper right-hand corner, just slight nudge. You don't have to, like, and I found myself doing the fucking hand pull. Like, it can't detect my fingers anyway, but, like, you want to do it.
Yeah.
You want to get into it.